Hi, everyone. Welcome to Venza's Hospitality Webinar Series, our live event that brings together external experts and our Venza team for an information-packed 30-minute conversation about critical issues facing the industry. I'm Sean Shields, brand ambassador here at Venza, and I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Venza's webinars keep you in the know, delivering impactful news so you can stay on top of issues facing your organization without having to spend significant time researching information on your own. The topic for our second webinar of 2023 is cybersecurity insurance. Cybersecurity incidents are always possible, even with the best practices and preparation. That raises the question, how do you prepare your organization to financially weather an event? Today, we'll discuss how to qualify for coverage, keep your premiums affordable, and be eligible for a claim in the event of a breach. We also have a special announcement, the release of our free new cybersecurity insurance calculator tool. This is a unique custom-built way to assess where you stand in the insurance market and what concrete steps you can take to improve your financial position. We've been working on it for some time, and we're very excited to finally share it with you. We'll also wrap up with news about company events and recent product developments so you can know how to get the most out of your contract with Venza. Let's get right into today's main topic, cybersecurity insurance. For that, I'd like to welcome Casey Harrigan to today's webinar. He is the technical communicator at Venza and has been researching and writing about cybersecurity insurance for the past 6 months as a part of our weekly article series and monthly digest to the Venza Echo. How are you doing, Casey?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Sean. I'm happy to be here and have the opportunity to speak with you all today. This is an issue that's been widely requested by our clients. We know that many of you are looking at getting insurance policies, are in the process of applying now, or seeking ways to make your existing policies affordable. First, let's talk about some facts. Cybersecurity insurance provides coverage in the case of financial loss from cyber attacks or data breaches and can cover expenses such as data recovery, legal fees, and compensation to affected parties. Cyber insurance has grown much more popular. Because of the increasing amount and severity of cyber threats, businesses have increasingly sought financial protection. The number of businesses insured has grown 20% per year over the past 5 years. This has caused the cost of purchasing insurance, known as the premium, to spike. Between 2020 and 2021, the average cost more than doubled. Fortunately, in 2023, we've seen premiums largely hold flat. This is because of increased insurer competition, fewer overall claims being filed, and greater selectivity of those insured. In some favorable cases, like companies with strong data protection policies, rates have actually fallen. This could mean that now is a good time to look at locking in a new policy. Despite the relative stability we've seen this year, there are reasons to believe that premiums will continue to rise. As we covered in May's edition of the Venza Echo, continuing regulatory change, new threats like ransomware, and underlying financial dynamics of the insurance industry like reinsurance all point to increasing costs in the future. Many insurers agree with this assessment. A recent survey showed that over 80% of insurance companies expect premiums to continue to rise throughout 2023 and beyond. Beyond that, we've also seen the industry become more difficult for hoteliers in other ways. In particular, insurers have become more restrictive by lowering coverage limits and offering tighter terms and exclusions. As a result, we've seen many policies become more expensive while simultaneously offering less benefits. To understand why, it's important to know the context of the cyber insurance market. As a relatively new area of business, insurers have had challenges pricing their policies accurately. The market has been in a period of flux where prices have changed as they worked to reach equilibrium. Many factors influence the cost of premiums for a company, including the size of your organization, the amount of coverage sought, and intrinsic risk factors like whether there's a history of breaches. Beyond that, an additional element is your risk profile. This refers to how risky an insurer believes it would be to provide coverage to your company. Riskier companies receive higher premiums, and customers with strong security platforms have lower risk profiles and typically receive discounted rates. Given this, let's take a look at how investments in cybersecurity like programs offered by Venza, can produce financial returns by lowering the cost of insurance. Because the price of insurance is based at least partially on your actuarial risk profile, and your risk profile is something that can be at least partially controlled by you, this creates a financial opportunity for your business. Data protection programs decrease your risk profile. That means the more secure you are, the less insurance companies think your insurance will cost. You can make your company look like a safe bet by taking steps upfront to build your defenses. Adopting best practices like security awareness training, incident response planning, and other data protection measures can not only make you more secure, but can also make insurance more affordable to you. In fact, having certain data protection, privacy, and regulatory compliance measures in place can often be a prerequisite to being eligible for coverage in the first place. During the due diligence phase, hoteliers are commonly asked about their network security policies, laptop and mobile device policies, compliance policy status, and more, with only those that are high scoring being offered policies. Additionally, we wanted to mention that there are other ways that cyber insurance investments can be returned to you. By decreasing your chances of a breach, you have less chance of needing to file a claim. Studies show that filing even a single claim can hike your insurance rates by up to 40%. Building strong security controls allows you to avoid that additional headache. It also increases your chances of receiving a full payout in the event of a claim. Poor security protocols may prevent financial support after an incident. Many people don't realize that if you are responsible for an incident due to insecure practices, an insurer may compensate you only partially or not at all, even if you have an existing policy. Collectively, this makes an important point. There are many subtle ways that the costs of a data protection program are returned to you, and these programs should be viewed as an investment rather than a pure expense. Thank you all. Back to you, Sean.
Hi, sorry about that. To get more insight, I'm pleased to be able to introduce Mr. Louis Whitrick, cyber underwriter with CFC, a specialist insurance provider and market leader in cyber. Louis, if you're able to join, throw on your camera.
Absolutely.
Hey.
I think it's still afternoon time for you guys. So good afternoon, good morning if I'm caught you to the side of the meridian. How you doing?
Doing great. We are so glad that you're able to join us today. We wanted to, of course, pick your brain about cybersecurity insurance, and we wanted to get your perspective on some common questions that we've heard from our clients. To start, I'd like to throw out our first question, if that's okay. You ready?
Absolutely.
I'm going to pitch you some hardballs here. You never know. What is the biggest trend you see in cybersecurity insurance market for 2023, and how should our clients expect it to impact them?
Okay, great question, Sean. So it's been no real surprise. The last few years, let's say 3 or 4, the biggest headache that any cyber insurer faces has been ransomware related issues. For a number of reasons. So if we look at the market, let's say the market, say 4 years ago, really what we were looking at is what I call a spray and pray kind of technique, in that you would have fairly unsophisticated threat actors, hackers, whatever you want to call them, who would en masse try and target as many people as they could with massive phishing campaigns, hoping that enough mud would stick. And as a result of that, the demands were fairly low. So typically, certainly in the European market, in the British market, certainly, you'd expect to see a ransom demand of something like £1,000. The hope being with these guys that people would see the relative nuisance that it would cause, going, it's £1,000, let's just chuck it out and let's pay the ransomware demand. How that's developed in the past 2 or 3 years is that these guys are becoming significantly more sophisticated with what they're doing, both as a means of entry and with what they're actually doing once they've been able to breach a system. And typically what that looks like is a threat actor, if they're able to, if perimeter security isn't as strong as it perhaps should be with certain businesses, they can get into a system for months, years, certain examples, really understand the worth of the data that they have access to, the reliance that these customers have on their systems in the first place, so they can make the most, the largest demand possible, and have a greater chance of ultimately causing success. So yeah, that is probably the biggest trend that we've seen in the last couple of years. Data exfiltration has been a huge issue as well. Again, I'm not sure if this has made the headlines or not in the States, but there's like a front page news issue at the minute as a result of several airlines, BA, Aer Lingus, for some people who might be familiar with British and Irish flight companies, essentially having reportedly a mass data leak. Now, we're still early doors. We don't know necessarily the type or convention of attack used, but what we know is this: these guys absolutely have an MO, an understanding of vulnerabilities within certain sectors, and aggressively hit hard. And this is just another one of these techniques that we're seeing. It's not just a case of, okay, we're in your systems, we know what data you have, we know what that means to you as a business. We're now seeing a case of these guys going public, immediately contacting, I think they've been given a deadline of the 14th of June to pay up, or they're going to start looking at affected individuals and saying, hey, look, this is what we've got. And maybe they'll even try and find recompense through the affected customer rather than just the insured. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it does. And you're saying they could get in there, lie dormant for a while, figure out what they have, and then figure out how they can cash in. Michael Flynn joining us. We were afraid that you weren't going to make it, so I of course didn't introduce you because you weren't here, but Michael Flynn, client director with Ashton Lark, an independent insurance broker based out of the United Kingdom, and joining us now. How are you doing, Michael?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for the introduction, Sean.
Sure. We try to give you the red carpet treatment or the orange carpet treatment as we do everything here in Venza. A little bit of orange.
I'll take the green, white, and orange treatment any day.
Awesome. Well, our next question from our industry folks, another concern, and thank you for that answer, Lewis. What advice do you have for companies that are completing their due diligence and preparing to apply for cyber insurance coverage? I don't know who wants to field that, but
I'll absolutely take that again. So fundamentally, as an underwriter, it is to accept risks on a certain basis on behalf of my insurance company, right? I'm basically able to make a series of educated bets, and the best way that I can do that is liaising with people like Michael, and really understanding the profile of risk. So, for example, a real basic set of criteria that I'd be looking for, and again, it really depends on the nature of the risk, the size of the risk, and really where I deem the exposure to be. But some real fundamentals that I think would be interesting to talk about. Database encryption, huge issue, and again, we see examples all the time in the media. So again, I'm not sure. Again, I know what you guys are like in the States for suing one another, so I'll keep the names anonymous. But there was a large hotel chain beginning with the letter M, who in recent years never heard of them, never stayed there. Why would I? Had essentially a large data leak, and this is again another classic example where someone has gained entry to a system through basically flaws in a legacy software system, left unchecked for years at a time. And again, I think there was a point where they got to 300 million customer records and went, okay, now's the time that we're going to sort of show our heads and cause all sorts of damage. So things like database encryption right there would give us as insurers a significantly easier time, because even if they can access records, they're redundant ultimately. Right. Second, again, is multi-factor authentication. both as a means of remotely accessing one's network and for corporate email accounts. The reason for that, these are fairly common entry points for threat actors to gain access to a business and cause all sorts of damage. Further to that, from rebuilding a systems perspective, I suppose, and minimizing any business interruption would be a retention of offline backups. There have been countless examples of claims that I reviewed at renewal stage where the costs were just astronomical as a result of no backups in place. So if there's nothing for us as insurers to come in to do to help to rebuild systems, to continue effective trading, we've got to pay the cost and the time and the effort to completely rebuild everything in the first place. Yeah, they're just incredibly simple measures to take.
I think that's
I would
really
add to that. Sorry, Michael.
Sorry to stop you there. I think that's a really interesting change that we have brokers have seen in the last 12 months. Obviously, we deal a lot with Lewis. He's probably our primary carrier for global hospitality markets, but we've seen off-site backups being demanded, being requested in proposal forms, and it's kind of a shift away from the old attitude where everything's in the cloud, so I'm fine. But unfortunately, there are some Trojans or malware that can find their way into the backup as well. So interestingly, we've seen a shift away from the super high tech cloud platforms into traditional. Have you got an offsite backup somewhere that you can, even if it's only once a week, and to feed kind of in from a broking perspective, we find that if we're approaching our market, such as Lewis, with say a global hotel chain, we want to broke that global business. We want to get them the best possible deal. The number one thing from our side is early engagement, and it's a bit of a pain because sometimes there's a form involved and a bit of extra risk information. But if we can get the information back early doors, like 2-3 months in advance, that gives Lewis a lot, enough time to get comfortable with the information. Sometimes Lewis might need, a little bit of extra reinsurance in the background, but engaging with our markets early doors is the number one thing we can do to try and mitigate risks. So, for example, all these simple fixes, MFA, maybe getting some cyber credentials, all of that is quite easy. They're quite easy risk requirements to meet. So you can probably do that within the lead up to renewal, or say we'll get that done within 2 or 3 months. But it heavily affects the insurance rate, and it also allows time to engage to get the interest of people like Lewis and other carriers that we deal with. So I would say, on the back of all the the really practical things that Lewis has mentioned, early engagement with your insurance broker is probably number one for me in terms of mitigating pricing, getting the best possible cover, and also no late shocks, 20%, 30% rate increase just because we don't understand your risk properly. I think that's fair, but if we get the risk information early, we're able to assess it. We sometimes there's an internal sign-off procedure. That's quite critical on pricing.
And payout, I would imagine, if you didn't have some of those, coverage, right? You covering it, if you didn't have those basic things in place, encryption, things backed up, MFA, right? That's going to affect whether you're covered in the event of an emergency, correct?
Not so much with us, but again,
yeah?
we position ourselves as a premium product, so no warranties and conditions. I will caveat that not all insurance policies are built equally. I think really classic public liability led insurances, it's pretty cut and dry. Somebody falls over on your premises as a result of it's going to pay out, right? With cyber, there are 1,000,001 nuances, so yeah, you get what you pay for. Look out for that.
Excellent. All right, audience, if you have any questions, punch them into the chat. But based on your knowledge of hospitality industry, what are the most tangible steps that clients can take to receive affordable, reliable, comprehensive insurance coverage? And I think we kind of touched on some of that don't know who wants to, just some of the tangible steps that they can take.
I'm happy to start that one, Lewis, and maybe you can
Sure.
you can follow up. But effectively, just having the right engagement with the CTO. And I know this sounds really simple, but a lot of the time, we as brokers and underwriters don't have access to the people that can actually answer those questions. And for us, it's normally a chief technology officer. Even if it's if you're a smaller operator, maybe you've only got a couple of sites. Can we actually engage with the CTO and see what practices there are in place? Do we have ISO 27001, or are there any plans within the business to engage with, to apply for some sort of cyber security credentials? So it's kind of telling the story, and sometimes the risk profile of the business is not completely there yet, but that's okay, because it's all part of the journey. So, for example, the bare minimums, that we would look for is, senior management team should really have MFA. It's 2013. Everybody should have that. Will all the front of house and back of house staff have that? No. Well, that's okay. That's not necessarily, a minimum requirement. But certainly, if we engage with the CTO, and sometimes if it's a tricky renewal and there's a bit of a story to tell. So, the security is not there yet, but by the way, this is the level of investment. We've identified, for example, that, we've got 50 million customers in our internal booking system. We've got the passport details, we've got the credit card details. This is how we protect this data. But by the way, we think we can do better. So we're going to put in these sets of procedures over the next 12 months. And we've got sign off from the board for this level of investment to do this, to protect this customer data. Well, that's also part, and that's not in a proposal form. So Lewis will typically never ask those questions. But us, from the broking perspective, is to sell the best possible, but also the most accurate stage of risk. So it's not always 100%, but that's okay, as long as we can have an honest conversation. CTO is definitely the best person to have that conversation with, or a third party provider who's in charge of IT security.
Yeah, exactly that. If I have that level of information and somebody like Michael can relay that to me, have an honest conversation, it doesn't need to be perfect. There's an entire reason this industry, this conversation is happening right now, right? There's an element of risk to everything I take on. So things don't need to be flawless. Having said that, what else can somebody do? I suppose Michael's ticked all the boxes in terms of the initial conversation and the initial risk acceptance for us. At CFC, we have an app that we would use, and we would encourage you guys to use that a lot as well from a threat intelligence perspective. So one of the things that we would be doing is essentially we pay millions and millions of dollars every year to liaise with various government agencies, your own included, to understand basically what's going on in the underworld. So it may well be the case that we've noticed there's a group going after hotel chains, for example, and this is how they operate. And this is the sort of emerging level of risk. We can let you know about that. There's an Ask the Expert function as well. So again, your guys trade your guys trades. You're not by nature going to be absolute wizards at everything cybersecurity. That's why you've got those guys to rely on in the background. But again, as part of our service, there's the Ask the Expert function. So if you're like, hey, look, I've been noticing X, Y, and Z's happening. What on earth does that mean? What can I do about it? And you can contact those guys who work on our threat intel team. The other thing I think it's worth mentioning is the way that, and again, everyone on this call will probably understand this firsthand, but the way in which the cyber market has changed in the 3 or 4 years due to emerging threats. In fire insurance is one thing, right? You can predict, or hurricane insurance in the States, you can kind of have a cyclical, okay, well, we expect every 10 years there to be this level of claim. You can't get that with cyber because it changes so quickly. So just to be aware of emerging risks. Again, this is the power of a good broker. But again, I thought it'd be quite interesting. There was a claim I was looking at recently for the hotel sector, where basically there was an incident of cryptojacking, and all that really means is it's a fancy term for this hotel's computing power was being robbed for the purposes of mining Bitcoin. So that had a knock-on effect of their website uptime. And also their essentially their Google rankings. So these sorts of things, there's an algorithm that affects that, how well your website operates. This particular client of ours went from a top 5. So if you were to search, I don't know which city centre it was, but there was, let's call it Belfast, for example, Belfast hotels. That'll be one of the first ones that you see. As a result of that, it went down to 25, 30 in the rankings. So it was the second page of Google. I don't think I've ever been on the second page of Google in my entire life.
That's the best place to hide a dead body, is the second page of Google.
And apparently Belfast hotels. So yes, there was other APIs where people could book, but these guys noticed a significant drop-off in their revenue. So for example, again, not all policies are created equally. We were able to fix the issue in the first place, pay for SEO, search engine optimization and PR costs, and get these guys back, loss of earnings, all that sort of fun stuff. So just keep your ear to the ground for emerging threats. There's not a lot that these guys could have realistically done. It was a fairly sophisticated attack, but do be diligent and be keen to learn.
Well, I want to thank both of you for your time today and your excellent insight on that. Big round of applause from the audience, I'm sure. They're applauding you, just you can't hear it. Again, I'd like to thank both of you. Really appreciate it. And I am sure that if I get any crazy questions, I know who to call. So we definitely appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right, up next is our very own Barbara Espinoza, Product Marketing Director of Venza, and she is going to discuss some of the exciting new product updates. Barbara, take it away.
Thank you, Sean. It has been a very busy time here at Venza as always, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to share with you and the audience some of the new developments that we have. Starting with, our Cybersecurity Insurance Calculator. Today, we are unveiling our newest tool, and this is unique to Venza. It's been custom built to provide an insight into where you stand relative to the market and how security investments may affect your premiums, as we've been discussing with Michael and Lewis. And best of all, it is a free tool that is located on our website under the resources section. And we'll put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to give it a try today. How it works, it asks a series of yes/no questions about your data protection and privacy policies, and then it provides with a score and information about what that means for your risk profile and premiums. You can also get a copy of your results emailed to you directly for future reference. And please do note, as we've been discussing today, individual premiums vary based on the insurer, size of the organization, and other risk factors. So make sure that you check with the licensed insurer for more details. But this calculator can definitely help, like Michael was mentioning, to get a prepared, clear information on an early engagement with your broker and get an accurate state of risk assessment to lower your premiums. Not only that, we also have many other exciting product updates from the last quarter. Don't miss our latest Venza Echo Digest that will include the scoop for all the different product releases that we've been working on the past quarter. I do want to highlight today something very exciting coming up in the next month, and that is our Venza system. The first stage of our Venza system, the central node in a comprehensive network of Venza software and third-party solutions, will be rolled out within the next month. Delivering on the promise of better visibility, our Venza platform will serve as a node combining all of our Venza program features, including like e-learning, Venza phishing, your whole security awareness profile, and this will help providing that insight into your state of risk. This is all combined into a unified instrument with customizable reports, and dashboard that updates dynamically, offering a single pane of glass producing the information you need when you need it. So stay tuned for that rollout, like I said, coming in the next month. And since we're running out of time, that's all I'm going to share today. Again, stay tuned to get that Venza Echo Digest with more product updates. And back to you, Sean.
So much, Barbara, and thanks to you, our audience. We appreciate it. We know we're right here at the end. We're going to leave this up here for you just for a few moments, and we are going to end this webinar. Thank you. You'll find all of this information in the handout. You want to download that. And of course, if you miss some of this or part of it, it will be available to all of you in a video. You'll end up getting that link in an email to you. Thanks so much, and we will end this webinar.